Welcome to today's webinar, Career Insights Investing in Self, Build Your Career, hosted by CFA Society India and CFA Institute. As we speak, India is in the midst of an unprecedented crisis triggered by the pandemic. Hope your loved ones and you are safe and healthy. I would like to take a moment to welcome our audience from around the world joining us remotely. I am Rajendra Kalur, CFA, Director Research and Advocacy Committee, CFA Society India, and will be the moderator for today's webinar. Before I introduce our housekeeper, I have a couple of housekeeping notes to make. Today's webinar is scheduled for 60 minutes, including Q&A. 45 minutes presentation, and the last 15 minutes will be devoted for Q&A. We'll be leaving time for Q&A after the presentation. Please feel free to submit your questions throughout the presentation. You can do so by clicking on the Q&A link at the bottom of your viewer and typing your question in the box. This webinar presentation will be available to view after the presentation concludes in the chat box. We value your feedback, so please complete the evaluation survey before you sign off today. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's webinar, Deepak Sahni. Deepak, leadership coach and facilitator, has more than 1,500 hours of experience in coaching CXOs and senior executives in large multinational corporations in varied behavioral areas and skills. He's empaneled as a career coach with global companies as well as with global training and coaching companies. Before starting his journey as a coach, Deepak worked in leadership roles with leading energy and banking, financial services, and insurance companies. Deepak has earned several certifications, including the Hogan Assessment Certification, Executive Coaching with Marshall Goldsmith, Associate Certified Coaching Credentialing with the International Coaching Federation, and an Executive Coaching degree from ISB Hyderabad. Welcome, Deepak. The screen is yours.
Thank you so much, Rajendra, for this detailed introduction that you have done. And I welcome you all. Like Rajendra mentioned, you may be from different time zones and countries. It's evening time here. So welcome to this session, which is aimed at helping all of you understand what does it take to build careers. Now, this entire next 45 minutes is focused on some tools, some techniques, some processes that helps successful professionals build their careers. And as we all know, careers are not built in a day like Rome. It takes time. Although it takes time, yet you will find that some people do it better than others. We only look at their successes, but we don't understand what has gone into making them successful. My attempt is to sort of demystify some of those elements which go into making successful professionals who build great careers. Now, all of you may be at different points in your career. Some of you may be starting off, some of you may spend 4 or 5 years in a job, and some may be longer. What I'm going to cover is going to be relevant for everyone in what it takes to build successful careers. And when I explain that, share with you, you may find resonance to some of these elements of what you're already doing, right? And if you're doing it, perhaps there is something good in it, you should do more and more. And if you're not doing it, perhaps make a note of it as to how you can begin to do it. So let me jump into this webinar on how do we invest in ourselves and build our careers. And I will begin with this quote by Muhammad Yunus. Now, Muhammad Yunus, most of you may know, is considered the father of microfinance coming from Bangladesh. And he said this very famously, which is on your screen, that we are all entrepreneurs. We are born entrepreneurs. But we never had the opportunity to unwrap that part of our life. It remains hidden with us. That's the case with most of us, right? Now, what does it take to be an entrepreneur? Let's spend a few moments here. What does it take to be an entrepreneur is an ability to identify a problem or a challenge which is impacting a lot of people. And an entrepreneur mindset then start to work on developing a product or a service which can address that need. And when you start addressing the needs of large number of people, your target segment, that's when your product becomes successful, right? And no product stays successful for a long period of time. So what do entrepreneurs do? What does that mindset do? They keep checking on how the consumer preferences are changing, how the technology is shaping up new behaviors, how the new generation is taking to their products, what new innovations are possible in that product, so that the product remains relevant. And they continue to invest in R&D. They continue to invest in customer preferences, knowing more and more, doing more and more research around that. And that's how they keep improving, keep evolving their product so that they stay relevant. Their product stays relevant and they continue to make money again and again and again. But at the same time, not losing focus on that end customer whose needs have still to be met. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Most of you, I understand, would be doing a job. You must be working for a company, right? So what does it mean for us? What it means is that for a moment, if we consider ourselves as product, we are product and we are our own entrepreneurs who's handling that product. What does it change for us? What can we start to think differently that we can start to create more value for ourselves as professionals? It requires a shift of mindset. Rather than thinking that I am working in a company and I'm getting paid for my job, can I see myself as a product? That I am as a product delivering a value which addresses the pain points, which addresses the needs of my employer. And the more I continue to do that, the more I have an opportunity to grow myself, not only in that organization in terms of responsibility and jobs and so on and so forth, but I'm more likely to outgrow that organization and maybe go to other organizations because of the value that I keep adding to myself and through me to the target segment, which is employer in this case, right? The perspective that the statement gives to me is this, that we are entrepreneurs and the product is me, myself. And if that be the case, how do I remain a viable product, a thriving product for a long period of time? Not just for a period of 1 year, but 5 years and 10 years. That mindset builds careers. Careers are not built in 1 year. Careers are built over a period of 5 to 10 years. So in this presentation, I'm going to take you, like I said, dive deep into it, that what are the shifts in your mind? What are the shifts in your attitude required to start looking at your careers differently? And then how do you build that career? Before I go further, I would request you to go to the chat box and input your response to this question. When we say the word investing, what does it mean? What different meanings it throws for you? Can you just go into the chat box and put down your 1 word, 2 word response? What does investing mean when it comes to your career? What all does it mean? I would request you to go to the chat box and start inputting your responses there. The chat box option is available under a more button on your panel, or maybe directly available. Click on that, it'll open up a box and you can start typing your message there.
You can put it on the Q&A box. Chat box is different.
Okay. So Prabal Jan says the way of preserving and growing any area of wealth, talent. It's moving so fast that I can't even read it. Yeah. Learning, Alankar says that. Yeah. I'll have to move this a bit. Can someone help me? Upskill, growth and return, enhancing value, learning for tomorrow, building wealth, investing, upskilling, staying relevant, creating disciplinary wealth, relevant to market, self-improvement, all-field experience, many, many things. So some of the things that I'm noticing that most of you have written is skill, learning, improvement, self-improvement rather, right? How do I improve myself, right? Growth, which means how do I grow my skills, my competencies to grow my career. I'm seeing many, many such common themes emerging in the chat box. If that be what investing is, as understood by each one of you, let's move forward and look at some of the data points which sort of confirm what you all already know and you have put in the chat box. There was this World Economic Forum report in 2018 which came up, which was about future of work. And that report said that any professional who wants to build a career, stay relevant, and grow may need up to 101 hours of training every year, not just one time, every year. Now let us break it down. 101 hours is almost like 16, 17 days if you take 6 hours of learning each day, which means almost 1.5 days per month. And it brings us back to the fact that today, most of us, when we finish our education or a program, we believe that we have completed our learning, and then we stop learning on a day-to-day basis. We stop acquiring new knowledge, skills, and competencies. And this report essentially talks about many, many types of trainings. It's not just functional training. It's not just subject matter training. It's also leadership training. It's also about behavioral skills. It's about how you influence people. How do you negotiate better with people? How do you work in teams and create better results? And so on. How do you manage conflicts in teams? Many, many different types of trainings, certifications, knowledge, both functional and specific to your domain, right? So that's one. Very, very important. Because remember what education does. What does it do? Education just provides you a passport. Education, if you have to use this analogy of passport, is almost like saying that I want to travel to Americas, but can I go there without a passport? No, I cannot. So I have to have a passport, and I get a passport when I satisfy certain rules and regulations of the country that I live in, right? And then I can go anywhere in the world. But passport is just one document that is essential or the starting point to build a career like your education. What you actually require is visa. Now, if you have to apply for a visa for any country, what do they ask for? Can you input in the chat box? What do they ask for? You've got your passport with all your residential proofs done, police checks done in the country that you live, that's India. But if you have to travel and have to get visa, what do you need? What do these countries ask for before giving you visa? Can you input into the Q&A box again? Can you help me, Harshad, or somebody to read out what's coming in the Q&A box?
Yes, sure.
How long will you stay in the country? Purpose of visit, ability to sustain yourself, which means they will ask for money. Yeah, some more which are coming up, Harshad. Yeah.
Yes. So investing time and energy. Okay. No, that is the old one. Yeah. So passport, money you have, then purpose of visit, income certificate, where you going, a reason, purpose, what's your travel plan,
Right.
when are you
Wonderful.
returning?
Wonderful. So that's essentially, once they are satisfied, those countries for which you apply for this visa are satisfied. They also ask for your biometrics. They also ask for your financial statements as a proof of your ability to sustain yourself. They may ask you where you're going to go and live. They will ask you for a purpose, and you have to justify that purpose. You have to submit your itinerary, your tickets, the hotel bookings. They want to be reasonably assured that you are going to come and be a good person when you are in that country, right? And that is the additional information that employers need. That is the additional information your partners need for you to start building your career. Passport alone is not good enough. So what does it take to get that visa from a career standpoint? What do you need beyond education, beyond training, beyond certifications, beyond skill sets, and beyond competencies to start building your career over a period. And this approach now that I'm going to unfold may seem quite sort of, how should I put it, alien to some of you. You may think that it's very classic. You may think it's very utopian. It's not something that is doable. But believe you me, the more I talk about this subject to a lot of professionals that I coach, the more I realize that this works, right? And there was this famous book written by Reid Hoffman and Ben Casnokowa. One of them is a founder of LinkedIn. It says the startup of you. The book is called The Startup of You. And it essentially is the same thing which I was talking to you about in the morning, in the first half, to say that you are entrepreneurs and you are your own product. So how do you market yourself? You are a good product, but if you are not discoverable, people don't know about who you are, what you are capable of, what type of needs you can serve for them, what type of problems you can solve for them. You are no good. You may keep sitting in your office, you may keep thinking, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, but people don't know. And that's where the careers get stuck and people get frustrated. So how do you go ahead and build that visibility and discoverability? My simplest definition of discoverability is this. Let us say you are living in a big apartment society, right? And on your floor, or maybe a floor below, is the CEO of a company. And he knows you because you socialize, you meet up in the parties or functions which are done in the society. But does he know what are you capable of doing? Does he know what do you value? Does he know what type of problems you solve in the company that you work for? If he doesn't know, even if he has a job, he will not talk to you about it. And that's when you will lose out on getting an opportunity. So the important thing, and today more than ever, discoverability is the key. Will people reach you if they're looking for someone like you? And if they can't, then you have a bigger struggle. So how do you create that visibility becomes critical. And today, like I said, the world allows you many such opportunities to do that. But you have to take actions, you have to take efforts. Because what essentially it means is, are you available to the market? And if you are available to the market, you have to invest in yourself, and you have to invest by differentiating yourself. If you are one among many, then you can have a career of many which many people live, which is not spectacular, which is not successful. They just exist. They don't thrive. To be able to do that, it is important that you focus on something, because if you don't differentiate, you can die. If you don't differentiate yourself as a brand, then you will become a commodity. And you all know, I know, everybody knows, commodity sells like anything, right? There is no value attached to it. Brands get value. Brands are sought for. Therefore, look at yourself in terms of a brand. How are you positioning yourself as a brand in the space, in the domain, in the industry, in the sector that you are in? And brands attract attention. They are top of the mind, right? So you have to differentiate to be that brand. Now, how do you invest in this? So here is a small 3 steps that I'm going to share with you. First of all, list down what are your assets. And these assets could be anything, right? These assets could be your education, the uniqueness that you bring from your education. These assets could be the projects that you have delivered, either in the company that you're working in or maybe outside. These assets are your skills that you have demonstrated at work to deliver the results. These assets are your competencies and many such things. These are your assets. Nobody can take it away from you. They exist in you. They make you who you are. Be very clear. Take a paper and write down as many assets you have, as many as you can. And don't think whether that asset is useful or not. At this stage, just write down all the assets you have, the type of education you have had, maybe the languages that you know. For example, if you know a Spanish or a French, that's also an asset for you, not just knowing English. So be very clear on whatever you have, you believe is a strength with you. It can be seen as an asset or a strong point from the other's point of view. Write it down. Big or small doesn't matter. Write down that. We will look at it a bit later. The second thing to do in investing in your differentiation is then look at aspirations. What is aspiration? Aspiration is nothing but where do you want to be? Over a period of time, not the next job, but maybe 3 jobs later, maybe 2 jobs later, maybe 5 jobs later, maybe 7 years later, 5 years later, whichever it is. Where do you want to be? What are you aspiring to be? And don't define it just only in the money terms. Don't define it in terms of designation, that I want to be the vice president or CEO or something. No. Define it in terms of from an aspiration perspective, what type of value you wish to add to people you work for or work with. For example, can you say that I aspire to be the profit center head, or I aspire to be in a role where I can impact the growth, the strategy of an organization. Now, designations will not matter in the real long term. Designations are a collateral benefit of what value do you add. They don't come first, they come after the value that you are adding to that organization. So define your aspirations. For example, if I have to define my aspirations, then I would say in 5 years from now, I want to start impacting 1 million people every year through my training and through my coaching that I do. So it's not about what am I in terms of role, whether I'm a CEO or a founder of a company. It's about what value I want to add. Where do I want to contribute? Define your aspirations in that sense. And the third thing, which is being very practical, is look at the market realities. With these skill sets and competencies and where you want to be, what are the market realities? Be very truthful about it. If you know, write it down. If you don't know, go and talk to others and figure out what is the market reality in the sector, in the domain, in the areas that you are keen on in terms of your aspiration, and listen to them, make notes around them, because that market reality will tell you two things. It might tell you that you are ready, you are enough and more differentiated, you have something which others may not have, or it may tell you, no, you are a commodity, you are one of the many. And that one of the many approach will not help you move ahead in your career. Right? For example, I quit my corporate career in 2013. Okay, I created this asset aspiration market realities in 2007-8. And what did I do? I said, by the time I turn 50, I want to be doing this. I want to be an independent professional, and I want to be impacting the lives of people. When I started visioning or looking at my aspirations for future, that was 2007, right? And at that time, I was still nowhere close to being 50, right? So what did I do? I was still 40 at that time. So what did I do? So what I did was I did the same thing. What are my assets? Can I monetize my assets? Whatever I know, can I convert them into a viable product and to be able to sell to people? And the answer was no. So what did I do? I started looking at my asset and I found no answer there. Then what did I do? I added to that assets. So in 2008-9, and you would have seen Raj talking about, I went to ISB Hyderabad on an executive coaching program, and I became a coach internally. And for the next 3 years, I remained in the corporate world and did coaching internally to get more muscle in myself with some skills which I can monetize. And when I left in 2013, the corporate job, I already had that. I knew the market realities. What was the market reality? That if I have to add value into this space, they need experts. They need people who are credentialed. They need people who have credibility. And the credibility came to me from that coaching. And mind you, since 2013 to now 2021, I invest in myself a substantial amount of sum of money to keep myself contemporary. After that also, that is 2013, when I quit, I again got into another coaching program. And every alternate 2 years, I go into a coaching program, which is about 50 to 60 hours of training. I learn more. I become better. I tend to become better with all these interventions, but I invest in myself. So this is not a static piece. You begin today looking at your assets, your aspirations and market reality. It's a very dynamic model. Now, don't think that you have prepared a plan today, it will be valid for 5 years. Who knows, this pandemic happened in 2020? Who knew about it? That can change many, many realities. And look at some sectors which are suffering right now, right? And that could impact you and your career plans. So therefore, begin with one, keep doing mid-course corrections, but keep your direction going in the right place. And that will allow you to make your first steps. And again, I'm concluding on this slide by saying it will either tell you you are enough and more differentiated or not. And the choice then is, what can I do now to be more differentiated, to be able to meet my aspirations and also meet the market realities, the gaps in the market, what employers are looking for, what those sectors are looking for. Can I offer that in the short term to long term, right? So that's the first step, to begin from building an awareness around where you are to where you want to go and what do you have which will take you there. If you don't have, your plan to acquire that. Now, that plan to acquire requires some more thought, and that's what is important. And that thought comes from this statement. And I'm giving you as an activity you can do after the session, is prepare a brand statement for yourself, which goes like this. I would, in fact, there is a word missing here, which says, I would like to be known for being. Write down 3 things that you would like to be known for. 3 things. For example, if I were to write down, I would say I would like to be known for being design thinker, problem solver, and empathetic. Okay. Design thinker, problem solver, and empathetic, so that I can deliver. And then you have to complete the statement by what will you deliver as value. And if it was me, I will say, so that I can deliver holistic and practical solutions of human development interventions to my client or employer in your case, right? So once you do this exercise, come out with this big brand statement. And what does it do? It helps you think, what is that contribution I want to make? So if I'm a design thinker, I would create solutions which address the pain points and needs of my clients. I'm talking about myself in this case. If I'm a design thinker, then I would study their processes, their people better, and I will give them a very smart solution, because my next thing is problem solver. So I have to solve the problems of the clients that I'm working with. I just can't sit outside and give a solution and hope that that solution will solve the problem. I have to participate. I have to partner, and many, many dimensions come in. And when I start to become a brand like that, I will start attracting businesses. And for your information, I did this exercise 2016 or 17 for the first time. I did this brand statement. And after I did that, I realized that I am taking actions to live this brand statement. And when I started taking those actions, those were getting noticed by the clients I was working for. And I'm happy to share with you that I have a lot of repeat clients also, which are coming to me because they notice who am I, and they notice who am I through my actions, through my behaviors when I work with them. And this also is required by each one of you. Again, when I'm giving my example, I'm conscious of the fact that you may think I'm not in employment. But remember, when you are even in employment, you have internal customers, right? Your boss's boss, your CEO, your MD, right? All of them are noticing you, and you are a brand. Recognize yourself. You are a product. Recognize yourself and sell yourself like an entrepreneur does when it comes to his or her product, right? So this is one part. The second part is now the plan. How do you plan towards your career goals? Remember, I told you it's all dynamic. You can prepare your plan today of where you want to be based on your assets, based on market realities, and based on your aspirations, but it is dynamic. So you have to have certain assumptions and hypotheses which goes into any plan. So you may say, okay, I'm looking at building my career in these sectors because these sectors are growing sectors. It's pharma, it's IT, and maybe if I move into these sectors doing the role that I do, then maybe I can build a career to be where I want to be. That's an assumption that you are making. An assumption also you're making is based on data of those sectors, based on the career paths of some of the people that you have taken who have taken that route, or they have taken that industry as their base, whatever it is. Make some assumptions, because when these assumptions go wrong, that's when you have to go back to your plan and change the plan. Remember that. Otherwise, why would you change your plan? If some assumptions change, only then you need to change the plan. But if your assumptions and hypotheses keep coming out correct over the period of 3-4 years, you don't need to change any direction. You don't need to change anything about your plan. So that's the first one. The second thing is, as soon as you know this and you have seen the gap, prioritize your learning. Spend some of your own money. I'm repeating, spend some of your own money to learn. Be it a training program, be it a certification, anything. Don't wait for your corporation or your company to sponsor you for that program or sponsor you for that training. If they do, great. If they don't, go out and do it yourself. Remember, companies will train you to do the job that you're doing better. But you have to prioritize your learning by doing something that you prepares you for future also. Future from your career perspective. And they are not invested in that. You are only invested in that. So look at keeping some money, stashing it away for maybe one program. And I told you 13 to 2021, every year I invest a huge sum of money on myself. I'm 55, 56 now, but I still believe that if I have to stay contemporary, I have to invest in myself. Prioritize your learning. And importantly, learning by doing. When it comes to doing, let me give you some examples. You are in an organization, you may be in junior role, you may be in middle management role. There are many, many things which are going to happen in the organization. Are you participating in those? Are you spearheading those? Are you putting your hand up to say, I want to take up this initiative. I want to do this differently. I want to do this in a very innovative way. I want to bring in changes, technology, blah, 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 and do what it requires from an organization perspective. Learn by doing it, not just by reading it only. You can't say, no, I know the subject. People would like to hear, if you know the subject, how have you translated that knowledge into something very practical, valuable for the people that you work with? So learn by doing and think to step ahead, which means what? Moving ahead. Think in terms of that. How do I keep moving ahead? And I'm going to share one last slide, which is also actually my last slide, where you will understand what I mean by thinking step ahead, which means if you have a 5-year plan, how do you know you are progressing? How do you know you're not static anymore? At the end of the year, you're still at the same place where you were. You have not added anything to yourself, right? And there is a process to do that. There is a simple tip. I'll talk about it in the last slide before I go there. You have to define and plan your career goals and journey towards that and be at it. It's not something done and kept to be looked at once a year or once in 2 years. You have to be at it. So that's the second part of how you can not only differentiate yourself, but also begin to put that strategy in place so that you move forward towards that. And it's important that you don't look at success on your career front from 1 year perspective. Think far and think how you can be different and reach your point in 5 years from now. Do not plan your career. In 1 year, you can change a job, but you can't build your career. Career is a series of steps and actions you take to reach a point which is your aspirational point in your life, right? That's what you should continue to look at all the time. Yeah. I don't know whether you are getting the questions, Raj, in the chat box, but we will address those questions in any case in the last, right?
Yeah, just a reminder to the audience that please ensure that you put in your questions to Deepak in the Q&A box, not the chat box. Chat box is disabled, as many of you have expressed, but the Q&A box is ready. Please don't raise your hands because we will not be able to enable the speak for you. So don't raise hands. Just type in your questions on the Q&A link that is provided at the bottom of the screen. So just a reminder to the audience, please don't raise your hands or use the chat box, use the Q&A box. And many of you have already used the Q&A box. So please use the Q&A box alone for the questions. And we will curate it and guide those questions to Deepak for his answers and responses. Thank you.
Thank you,
So over to you, Deepak. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. And therefore, once you have done this plan, you have to stay discoverable. Put yourself out for sale. Don't go literally by this, You don't have to carry this all the time with you. Today, there are ways and mechanisms available where you can put yourself out for sale without people knowing about it. And one of the places is Facebook. Now, you may be wondering why I'm talking about Facebook today. Today, most employers are doing social profiling of their candidates. So be careful about what is appearing on your Facebook page. What are you seen as doing or endorsing or advocating there? And if they find that as an individual, your interest, your focus areas align with who they are looking for, you become sort of ready, discoverable for them, and they will be keen to look at you. And mind you, they are not just scanning the Facebook. As in when you apply for a job, as in when you apply for a position, that's when the recruiters of that organization will go and profile you. And today there are tools available to do that. So be careful that putting yourself on sale also means using your Facebook profile intelligently. Let it also exhibit your thought processes. Maybe you can write an article around this. The news items, the updates that you put on that are related to your jobs and fields. You may do your social bit also about your friends, birthdays, and all that stuff, but let it not be frivolous. Let it not be some ad hoc subjects or political controversies that you're getting into. Keep it plain and simple, focused on letting people know who you are in terms of your aspirations, the things that you value. Don't get into controversies there. That's one. And of course, the LinkedIn. Now, many of you would be on LinkedIn, right? But I don't know how active you are on LinkedIn. Today, most jobs are getting filled through LinkedIn. A lot of recruiters go to LinkedIn. I was doing a career coaching session with somebody who is with Amex, and he told me that in about 15 days, he has applied for about 15 odd jobs, which came up in his keyword search on LinkedIn, right? So LinkedIn is becoming a great source for employers to look at profiles. However, you have to be careful about a few things. Is your profile updated? And when I say updated, does it showcase you with all your assets that you talked about 3 slides back? It's not about employment history. It should not be just your employment history to say over 10 years you worked in 3 companies and this was your role. No, that's a commodity. How does your LinkedIn profile stand out? Are you writing blogs? Are you commenting on blogs of others, good qualitative comments? Do you have recommendations? I don't know how many of you use recommendations. The people that you work with, there is a feature, and if these people can recommend you for the value that you've added when you're working with them, either as client or as employee or team member, what are they writing about you? You should have at least 5 recommendations of the people that you've worked in the last 2 years. And if you have nothing in the last 2 years, go and get after those people and get a recommendation. Get discoverable, because when people and these recruiters go to LinkedIn, they will not only look at your career history, they will also look at who are endorsing you for the skill sets and competencies, who is recommending you. Are they client? Are they seniors? Are they big names or not? Very important. Don't think being a junior, you can't ask for recommendation. You can always ask for recommendation, because people would love to recommend somebody who they feel is good. So they will write it for you. Be after them. And again, saying minimum 5 in the last 2 years of your working. And if you have nothing, go back again and get 5 more. Very, very important. LinkedIn is a place which gives you the visibility and you get discovered. And the point I sort of covered quite quickly was, does your LinkedIn profile also have some keywords? So maybe engage with professionals, find out from people what are the keywords which should be in your profile on LinkedIn, so that if people are looking for a person like you, your profile pops up because of that keyword, which is part of your. And keyword is not CFA. Keyword is not designation. Keywords are areas within your roles, what you do, the contributions you make, the values you have done, the projects you have done. It could be cost-cutting projects, it could be strategy projects, it could be value creation, whatever it is. It should be like a Wikipedia, let me put it that way, a Wikipedia. LinkedIn profile should be a Wikipedia of you and about you. So that when people read it, they can get a sense of who this person is. What are his value systems? What does he contribute? What does he, where does he add value? And how has he grown himself over the years? It should differentiate you, not like anybody else. So that's the second one. Then of course comes the networking. Now I want to spend a bit of time here. I know I'm running short of time, but I have been to some of the events from CFA. Maybe 2 years back also, I was at one event. I've noticed a lot of people will come and straight away ask for a business card, right? They'll ask for a business card. And I have also given my business cards. In fact, in the last 2 years, I don't have any business card. I just say, this is my number, write me a WhatsApp, this is my name, go on the LinkedIn and you can find me there. There's no need for business card anymore. But business card is not the purpose of networking. You don't go and collect. You should go to networking events and with a clear strategy in mind. If you know who all are coming, target 5 people or 10 people that you want to meet up and introduce yourself. Very clearly, be very focused on what do you want to get out of a networking event. Just go, don't go there ki milenge or card ikatthe karenge. Nothing is going to happen without collecting cards. Even if you write a mail after that to them, boom. Second thing, be ready with what we call as elevator speech. In 60 seconds, when you meet somebody, and let's say Mr. Rajendra Kalur, he will meet in our social networking event. In 60 seconds, can you introduce yourself? 3 things. The first thing, who are you and what is your experience? Second thing, what are your assets, your education, background, how you are relevant in today's time? And the third thing, what are you looking for? What changes you are looking for? What are your aspirations you're looking for in the current world? 3 things. Say that if the person engages with you, great. If it doesn't engage with you, move on, meet the other person, right? You may collect the card still, but you have to make an elevator speech. 60 seconds, practice that, rehearse that. You should not be blabbering. You can't say, oh, I'm Deepak Sahni and I'm a CFA and I did this in so-and-so year and I work with JP Morgan. Boom, you are a commodity. Differentiate yourself by the way you introduce yourself. And that's the elevator speech that you should be ready with. And you get an opportunity and you get talking to them, figure out, in fact, directly by asking, sir, and if you are really serious, would you like to be, or can I seek you as a mentor for my career here? And invariably, 1% out of 2 to 3 will say, okay, don't worry, get in touch with me every 2-3 months, and he will hand you over a card. And you have just acquired a mentor. Now, I'm talking about mentoring here because in the business that you are in, there are many people who will be willing to come forward and mentor you. In fact, all these sessions that CFA organizes, IIP organizes, in a way of mentoring you all. But do you have mentors? I recommend that each one of you, if you don't have, should have at least 5 mentors. And these 5 mentors, you can identify based on your career plan, which I talked about. What are your assets? What are the market realities and where do you see yourself? And once you're clear on where you see yourself, then you will be able to identify who are these 5 mentors, where are they, which events do they go to. If they don't go to any event, can you get in touch with them on the LinkedIn and write them a long letter to say that this is what you want to be in 4 or 5 years from now, and I would like to seek your guidance. And people would invariably respond positively. People like to help people. That's the inherent human nature. Are you seeking that help from people? Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed of seeking mentoring help from people. People will help you. I get so many calls from people who are aspiring to be coaches. Now, they will eventually become my competitors, but I don't mind that by guiding them, by telling them what they should be looking at. That's essential human being nature. People want to help others. So go and seek help. Don't be ashamed of it. You know, only the brave people seek help. Be brave and go and ask for help. That I have this vision for myself. I want to be there in 5 years. I would like to have a conversation with you 10 minutes next week. And then don't disturb them for 2 months. Don't be badgering them every week or every fortnight to talk to them. They won't have time. But they will have certainly time in 2-3 months. Maybe sometime it will be email mentoring. Or maybe sometime they will give you a WhatsApp number and you can chat with them on WhatsApp and they will give you good inputs and insights. So get your mentors in place, minimum 5 at any point in time. It could be across sectors, across hierarchies, across roles. People who have done what you have done in the past, what you want to do now, Maybe they could be great mentors from you, right? Think about 5 and acquire them. Go out aggressively, LinkedIn, networking events, wherever possible, right? That's the essential purpose of networking. Don't just go and collect cards. Because remember, when you nurture your network, you get allies and acquaintances, right? Allies are people who will help you. These are your mentors. Acquaintances are people who are generally known to you. They could be seniors, they could be ex-colleagues, they could be HR partners. These are the people you meet generally in a networking event. Maybe you are standing and having a meal and they come and talk to you, and that's pretty much what you have. They are all your network. And your power to build your career is built on the power of the network that you have. A lot of these mentors could actually open up opportunities or bring you the opportunities that you are striving for in terms of building your career. So go out and get these mentors. Your power, which is just one unit, will have a multiplier effect when you have these allies, these mentors with you, these acquaintances with you. And I'm using the word acquaintances very, very, very responsibly. I am not using the words friends. Now, why am I not using friends? Research tells us that when you create friends, they have a very close circle. You are probably from the same company, same industry, and there is no new information which comes from outside, right? But when you make acquaintances, you start to get information from various sources. That information that will be helpful for you from your career. I do a lot of career coaching, and there is a research which was done in, I think, 1973. And a group of 100 people were asked, who helped you to get a job? Only 14% people or 14 people said friends. 86% people said acquaintances. And who are acquaintances? These are the people you meet rarely or occasionally. They are not part of your inner coterie or inner circle. How many acquaintances are you building there? You can be in touch with them over a New Year greeting or a birthday greeting. You don't talk business with them every day or every week or every month, but are you in touch with them? And these are the people beyond your close circle. That's the real power you have. That will provide you windows of opportunities when you want to build your career across sectors, across industries, across roles. Nurture your network. Because who you know is what you know. If your circle goes up, right, in terms of who you know, then what they know also becomes your knowledge. Map your network, these mentors, these acquaintances, who are in which sector, what doors can they open for you, and then leverage them accordingly. And they will also help you understand what's happening there. You alone cannot do it. You can't keep track of so many things happening around the time. So use these allies, use these acquaintances to build that ecosystem which keeps feeding you with more and more information which is relevant to your career plan moving forward. So that's the part about building your career. It's a wheel within wheels. Everything is connected. So keep moving. Don't stay static. It's not a one-day process. Like they say, Rome is not built in a day. So similarly, careers are not built in a day. The last bit I wanted to add to you, and then I will close hopefully in time, is that when you build your career plan towards your career goals over a period of 4 to 5 years, start updating your resume every 6 months, right? Which means if today you are looking at your resume, which is May of 2021, 6 months later in November, again look at your resume and see whether anything in that resume has changed or not. If nothing has changed and you can still send the same resume, you are not investing in yourself. If your resume changes with the new project that you have done, new accomplishments, new achievements, new skills, new education that you can add on to it, that's when you are moving towards your career goals. 6 months frequency, something substantial and critical must get added on to your resume. And that add-on should be connected to your career. It's not just anything, it's about very specific, very focused, strategic addition to where you want to take your career. Keep updating it. And if you are not, then my friends, I'm afraid that you are only looking for a job change. You are not looking at building careers. And the difference is that if you want to change a job, every job change will be a struggle for you. But when you start to build a career, job changes will be more proactive. When I say proactive means you will be happy in a company, in a role, and yet you will be looking for a change. Vis-a-vis being unhappy and trying to leave that company and that job to find a new job. These are two different, this is a different paradigm completely. Start looking at your long-term career, and you may find that you leave a job even when you are happy, because for your career long-term, you have to make that change. And that will be a good and a happy place to be in. That's where I will close now, and I'll hand over to Rajendra for any questions that you think, Rajendra, I need to answer here.
No, thank you, Deepak. I think that's an amazing presentation, and really, I mean, you set the expectations right, and you handled the framework also right in terms of assets, aspirations, and market realities. And a lot of questions seem to be converging around that point. That's where I begin. But first, let me begin by reminding the audience that don't use the raise hand button there. Use the Q&A link and type in your questions. I still see some responses coming through as by using the raise the hand button. We may not be able to activate that. So please use the Q&A button and type in your questions, so we'll be able to look at the questions and then direct it to Deepak. So Deepak, let me begin by one of my own before I go to the audience. So, I mean, and that's on yourself. I mean, you look at the framework that you defined as assets, aspirations, and market realities. And you had a diverse experience across, where, ranging from energy to financial services, and makes it all the more wholesome and interesting there. But is there some kind of a deliberate plan that you kind of proceeded on? I know, how do you use this framework for yourself, and how do you describe that?
Wonderful. So I worked for 26 years. It's a brilliant question, Raj, and I think this will be helpful to others. I worked for 26 years in the corporate world. I was primarily sales, marketing, operations person for 18 to 19 years till 2006-7. Remember, I told you that year? That's when I did a personal visioning to say, what do I want to be doing when I turn 50? And I realized that I want to be independent. I looked at that time frame. Now, in my case, I looked at a long time frame, not 5 years, but still long, right? When I looked at the time frame and I looked at my assets, I found I don't have the assets to be able to take that decision and quit when I turn 50. Okay. Then I looked at what are the market realities, what are my aspirations, right? That told me that I don't have the required assets. When I looked at the market realities, I realized that I've done oil and gas, and now I'm getting into BFSI, which when I shifted my career in 2007, I don't have that. I don't have a sense of me being capable to address those market realities which are unfolding. So what did I do? I consciously and deliberately changed sector first of all. I said oil and gas alone is not going to be enough for me, because in this domain, only technically chemical engineers and all make success, and I was not an engineer, right? So that was one. The second thing was that as a result, I had some sort of interest in training when I was still in the sales marketing area. So in 2007, I moved my career from sales marketing to learning and development. I moved to BFSI for another sector, and I changed my domain to learning and development. I moved to Hyderabad to work for a company as head of learning and development. Unheard of. Everybody told me a big risk, but I was clear on my future aspirations of what I want to do. And when I moved there, I started getting my hands dirty. And after 3 years, I became a coach. So I prepared myself. Now, remember, I decided that I will quit at 50. But I got so prepared with what I wanted to be that I quit when I was 46 because I was ready with my plan. So I actually ended up quitting in 2013 instead of quitting in 2017. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think a great explanation of how the career is planned. And even if I think in your case, you mentioned that initially the asset side looked completely blank, but the aspiration was there. And I think the determination and the rigor that you wanted to take this up was there. And I think that helped matters reach a very logical conclusion. So let me then pivot to the audience questions here. And I think one interesting question that is there, many people are actually confused on what they actually want to be. And this is one great audience question that has come up, is in terms of how, are there any tools to determine, or should an individual employ some tools that you can suggest to determine what they really want to be? In fact, many people, it's not that easy. You said you want to be independent by 50, but not many people in the stage that they are in really know what they want to be.
Okay. So, well, there is a process, but it's a longish process. I remember I talked about personal visioning, right?
Yeah.
So I am equipped to do my personal visioning. Maybe if I have an opportunity, I can take all of you through that one of the seminars or webinars. But it is to do with personal vision, and vision is nothing but dream. Do you have a dream? And begin by defining that dream, that 5 years from now, and you can be very materialistic in your dream to begin with. You can say 5 years from now, I want to be in a corner office. 5 years from now, I should have a Mercedes. 5 years from now, I should have a house in Bombay. 5 years from now, you can define it any which way, but begin. So once you have that dream, then you look at where do you want to reach to be having a Mercedes or a house in Mumbai, in Worli, or wherever it is, to be able to meet those materialistic part of your dream or vision. What roles, which sectors will provide you that, and that's when you start to shape your vision. It's not a one-day exercise, and essentially what will also help you is being fresh in your head. Don't be under stress when you're thinking about it, because stress will kill out the dreams completely. Go back to your college days of what you used to think about yourself, right? Maybe you get in touch with those moments and situations to say, "Maine aisa socha tha, mera ye sapna tha." Bring it back now. Maybe the struggles of the last 4 or 5 years may have let that dream slip away. Bring it back. And I've noticed when I coach, I ask this question: that what was that dream that you were most passionate about, but you have forgotten? Ask this question. What was that vision you had? Who inspires you in the sector that you work in? For example, a lot of I was doing this exercise in ISB for CFA, and one of the girls stood up. She said, "Chanda Kochhar." Of course, now there is a challenge around that, but she says Chanda Kochhar is something my inspiration as a woman, right? So think about those people, and maybe that will also start to uh, bring into your mind what you can do, what you should be aspiring for in 3, 4, 5 years from now. Remember, you can't, when you are 25, don't think of 50, but think of 30 or 35 at the max. And that's much easier to vision, because the world is changing so fast that you can't look at 50 years when you are 25 years. So these are some of the things. Yeah.
Where you are coming from is, in fact, in your presentation, you mentioned is don't look short, look far ahead, but not very far ahead. Is
Not
that
very far.
Yeah, go ahead, Deepak.
So that's what I'm saying, that you have to dream. And when I say dream, when you start giving shape to your dream, that's when it becomes vision. Otherwise, it remains a dream. Dreams when you started off, dreams now. Look at careers of people. Look at people who are in the CFA body, what they have done. Maybe you can get an inspiration from that, how you can navigate your career and become something. Look at your own strengths. Look at your behaviors and attributes. कि उनको मैं leverage करके कहाँ पहुँच सकता हूँ. Maybe that will give you a push. But Raj, the limited point I want to make is there are many, many ways in which you have to think. It's not just one question and one answer. And for that, you need to have what we call as quiet mind. यहाँ पर शांति चाहिए, यहाँ पे stress नहीं होना चाहिए. Because if the stress comes into this part of the brain, your vision goes out, your dreams goes out, worries take over. So you should be in a mental health prime situation for be able to dream. Why? When do we dream? We dream in the night, right? Our mind is at rest at that time. That's when dreams come in. आँख खोल के dream नहीं दिखता. So you have to bring that same state of sleep during the day and do this visioning for yourself. Don't worry about it कि ये perfect है या नहीं है. Don't dissect it, don't bisect it. जो भी है उसको लिखो and start working. As you put it down on paper, market realities, assets and aspirations, then start to sharpen it. It's not one-time document. I told you it's dynamic. बढ़ाते जाइए उसको, and you will find success.
That leads to an interesting audience question again, in the sense that what if aspiration itself is wrong? Probably markets that are becoming obsolete, or you are becoming irrelevant in that shape of things. So, what do you do then? How do you then do a reality check? How often do you revisit those plans?
That's why mentors are there. So you go with your vision, your realities to your mentor and say, "Sir, this is what I'm thinking of." So if Raj is my mentor, I'll say, "Raj, sir, I am looking at it like this." And Raj will say, "Tum aisa kyun soch rahe ho? Because this sector is going down or that's happening. Be on the lookout for this. If this happens, then you have to change your plan." You can't do it alone. Careers are never built alone. You'll be lucky to do that. You need help of people. So go to your mentors. When you talk to them every 3-6 months, Raj, all those points which are in your plans, which you think you may fail on, you will get an early advice on that or early warning on that so that you can navigate yourself better.
Yeah, thanks, Deepak. And of course, one more question you mentioned about the social media and you mentioned about LinkedIn and FB. I mean, is there something about how to address this? I mean, do you have to be across all platforms, or for a career aspiration kind of thing, is it necessarily have to be LinkedIn? I think that's one interesting question that's come out from the audience.
Look, there is a saying in marketing, you have to be present at the place where buyers come. Have you noticed most of these jeweler shops are actually jewelers market? You will not find a single jeweler shop in a big mall. Rarely you will find, and that will be also very, sasta sara jewelry, right? So why is LinkedIn? Because employers are going there, and therefore you have to be present there, right? And have to be present in a manner that you are differentiated, not just one of the profiles. So see what differentiation you bring in your role, in the way you project yourself. Coming to Facebook, Raj, Facebook is a, I said it from a precautionary perspective, that be careful about what you put on Facebook, because that might spoil your chances of building career. If employers look at you as somebody who's frivolous, who is politically very, very dangerous, who's out there and projecting an image which will not go well in the organization, they may not look at you and you may kill your prospects. So be careful about Facebook. In fact, if you can use Facebook, which sort of supports your profile, which supports what you are putting on LinkedIn, that will be great, because employers are looking at consistency of a candidate. They should be able to predict your behaviors. That's when they feel confident about you. And consistency across that would be helpful to them to make their decision in your favor.
So you mentioned about the importance of having a mentor for people who are wanting to plan their careers. So I mean, how important it is, and how do you think? I mean, how do you think people can actually source mentors? I mean, is it a difficult task? What are the various ways in which one can? Of course, networking is one way that you mentioned, but are there? What exactly in their immediate area they can find mentors?
Okay, can I ask you a question, Raj?
Yeah.
In your career, have you mentored somebody informally or formally? Informally means he doesn't know and you don't know, but you keep talking to them and keep giving them advice around building their careers.
Yeah, both formally and informally, I would say. Yes.
Right. And how did these people approach you, or where did they find you?
I think it's various ways. I mean, one of these could be in one of those conferences that you happen to meet, and then you strike a chord, or
Right.
it could be really, an employee kind of a relationship, and then he's moving out of the organization but wanting to do something different, but
Right.
still wants to keep in touch because of the guidance, etc., that one receives. I think these are the ways.
Exactly. So once you are clear on your future, then you have to identify who could play mentor. Then it could be starting from your boss. You may still be in the company and he could be your boss, but he could also be your mentor because you are now seeking career advice from him or her. And people are willing to invest. So that's one area. The other is, like you said, networking events. Third is go to LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is a networking platform in any case. Write to those people that you wish to be in touch with. Now, let me tell you one more trick here. Let us say I want Raj to be my mentor, but I don't know Raj. I have written 2 messages on LinkedIn, but Raj doesn't come on LinkedIn. He doesn't see my message. Then let me go to my acquaintances, and Srinivas could be my acquaintance, and go to Srinivas and say, Srinivas, do you know Raj? He says, I know Raj. Can you introduce me to Raj?
Yeah.
I want him to be my mentor. So use your acquaintances to reach those targeted mentors you have, right? You can't be static. You can say, मैं तो जानता नहीं, email लिखा 2 बार, but that person is important for your career. So figure out, like I said, who you know is your power. So if you know Srinivas or Harsha, then he knows Rajendra, use them. And they will certainly make you get in touch with Raj. Am I making sense, Raj, here?
Yeah. And so one last question here, Deepak, is in terms of, so one of the questions that's come in is from the audience is that, the job requirement looks very intimidating from what is required. I mean, for an ideal candidate, and none of them actually seem to fit 100% there. And
Yeah.
many of the maybe eligible ones don't really apply,
Yeah.
because even if they are looking at such a job, because of the way the job description is given. So, is there any kind of guidance that you can give on this?
Uh, I don't know, but if I will say it from an employer perspective.
Yeah.
Employers also know that they may not find an exact fit of what they are looking for. Let us be realistic about it. If the candidate is thinking that I'm not the exact fit, which means whatever is required is not fully in me, but 70, 80% or maybe 90% is there, employers also don't know that. They are not aware, they don't know whether 100% fit will be available. So therefore, they interview you. What are one of the key things that employers are looking for is an attitude towards new learning. If they see an evidence that you are willing to learn new, get out of your comfort zone and get into those uncomfortable zone, because learning means unlearning also something, right? Are you open to that process? Do you show agility in that? Which means not only you learn it fast. That's when they will be open to hiring you. And they should be able to see that evidence in your career, and also the evidence in the interview. When they are talking to you, they may frame questions accordingly. Learning agility is becoming very, very critical in today's world, because we all know how things are changing and changing so fast that without agility, learning agility, we can't sort of make a success, leave alone survive, right? So learning agility is important. And when you go into that, sometimes it is important to be vulnerable. That's the second point I want to make. You can always acknowledge to an employer, sir, I don't have this, but I believe give me 3 months or 6 months and I can make a success of it, or I can do this, or I can parallel, if it is an education or certification, I've already started it. A lot of people get laid from the companies, right? And for 6 months, they're looking for a job. And I tell them, when new employer comes to you and asks you, what have you done for 6 months? If you say, look, I was searching for a job, they will not like you. But if you say, I was searching for a job, but I thought I can use this time to learn this new technology, new skill, or whatever, they will look at you very positively, because now you are differentiating yourself. So I think that's the element that you should feel confident about. Whether you are agile in new learning, are you demonstrating through your career growth, demonstrating in the interview that you are open to new learnings, unlearning old and learning new. That would be helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Deepak, for that lovely answer to the question. And with that, we bring to a close today's session. And again, as a reminder to our listeners, please do complete the evaluation survey that appears on your screen at the end of the session. CFA Institute and CFA Society India members may claim professional learning credit by logging in their online professional learning tracking tool. Upcoming webinars, if you have not registered already, please do so. And our marquee event is coming up from the Global CFA Institute, and attached is the Alpha Summit slide that Harshad would display. Alpha Summit is now open for registration in the link cfainstitute.is Alpha Summit 2021. So join us for Alpha Summit, a meeting of the minds hosted by CFA Institute on 18th May. Global financial investment professionals will enjoy awe-inspiring live conversations led by industry change makers that will leave you prepared, challenged, and inspired. You can register with code AS21, which appears at the bottom of the thing, the coupon code, to save 25%. It starts at 18:30 IST. Get ready for a full day of binge-worthy live conversations with a special preview session at 10:30 IST. We also have our upcoming practitioners insight on 20th May, again same time 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. This is on portfolio management techniques for large and multi-cap equities by Alok Agarwal. And on 24th June 2021, again 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Practitioners Insights on Analyzing the Auto Sector by Hitesh Goel. So if you haven't registered already, please do so, including the Alpha Summit, and please avail the coupon code and a 25% discount. With that, we bring today's session to a close. Once again, wishing you all a very safe and healthy future. So stay safe and stay healthy in these very, very unprecedented times. Thank you all.